All right, so we'll go through assignment 4 first, which is the worksheet with substitution, system of equations using substitution. Then I'll go back to, I'm probably not going to go over the assignment 3 in this recording, in this meeting. We kind of will go through it when I go over assignment 6, so I'm just going to do it that way. Oh, look at that. Cynthia's joining as well. Nice. So Cynthia, don't know if you just caught that last piece, but I'm about to go over some of the assignments due this week, so I know you need to catch up, so this will be good for you. So I'm glad you're on. So let's go to solving a system of equations using substitution. So on that worksheet, which I might even be able to pull up real quick, I'm not going to worry about it. On that worksheet, there are 40 problems. Like I said, you only have to do 10. You can pick the 10 easiest ones. That's probably the best bet. The 2 that I'm going to do here are all you really, if you can follow me here, then you'll be able to do 10 problems on that worksheet. So substitution means I'm going to be taking something out of an equation and replacing it with something. We've talked about the word substitution many times. So the key is I need to have one of the variables isolated. So I need to have one of the variables in one of the equations all by itself. So if you'll notice in this particular equation, I have y. Oh man, is that not? Oh, there we go. I have y all by itself. So I know that y is the same thing as -6. I've used this in videos I've recorded before. It's the equivalent of saying, well, if I have $1, that's a dollar. And again, fantastic artist. I also could have 4 quarters. Oh, God, that's horrible. Even for me. So $1 is equal to 4 quarters. If I go into a store and something costs 95 cents, it does not, and I start to pay with $1, I can put that dollar back in my pocket and I can give them 4 quarters. It's the same concept. Y has the same value as -6. That's what it equals. So I could either have y in the equation, which I do right now. I have y right there. Or I could have -6 in the equation, which is what I'm about to do. So instead of using y, I'm going to replace y. I'm going to substitute. And I'm going to say 3x subtract 6 times -6. So this y, whoops, this get rid of all of that. No, I can't. Oh, I have to go backwards. So the other -6, this -6 right here, and right here, that's just part of the equation. I don't change that. You will never change a number. You will only substitute in for a variable. You're never going to change a number to a different number, not unless you're doing math on it or something. So anyway, so continuing the problem. So I just plugged in for y, and the last part of it is just 30. Now I just do the math, come up with 3x -6 times -6, which is what this is basically saying, is positive 36. That equals 30. I could draw my little line showing the middle of the equation. Now I need to get x all by itself. Well, to do that, I have to get rid of the 36. Well, if I do it on one side, I have to do it on the other side. That gives me 3x on this side, because that all cancels out, equals -6. Last step, divide by 3, divide by 3, and I get x equals -2. Because those two cancel out, -6 divided by 3 is -2. So in this particular problem, we're done. We already knew what y was, because it tells us that in the first piece. It just says y is -6. We just solved out, and we got that x is -2. So our final answer, and this is very important because a lot of you are not putting a final answer. the final answer is a coordinate made up of -2 is the x value, and then -6 as the y value, because we already knew that at the beginning, that y equaled -6. So that's the answer for that problem. You just plug in and then you solve. Next problem's a little more complex, but same concept, same idea. You just have a little more math that you have to do. And this is where you guys go, this is too much. So again, I know that y is equal to 3x plus 13. So instead of y in this other equation down here, I could replace that with the 3x plus 13. And that's what I'm going to do. I could have done it reverse too. And I could have said, instead of the y in the top equation, I'm going to replace that. I could have replaced that with this. Either way, it's going to come out to be the same thing. I'm going to get 3x plus 13, because I just replaced this y with this right here. Actually, let me get rid of some of this, and I'll just tell you exactly what I did. So I took this y, whoops, I took this y right here, and I said, well, y is the same thing as 3x plus 13. So I'm just going to take this and get rid of it and replace it with this right here. So 3x plus 13, which gives me 3x plus 13 equals -2x subtract 22. And either way, you would have gotten that same equation. It didn't matter where you replaced the y with the other quantity. Now I solved this out. So I'm going to move all the variables to the right. I'm sorry, to the left. Ooh, I don't know why I just did that. So I need to add 2x, which means I need to add 2x over here. Well, that cancels out. I'll draw my line, show me in the middle of the equation. I have 5x plus 13 on the left now. And that just equals -22 on the right. Because the 2x's canceled out, 2x and 2x. All right, well, now I need to solve for x. I need to get x all by itself. So I just kind of do the same steps I just did in the equation up above. Subtract 13, subtract 13. And I get -35 equals 5x. Last step, we divide by 5. We do not divide by 5x, we only divide by 5. So now I get, let's say x equals -7. So I am not done yet. This is where you guys think it's too much work. I now know, or I'm pretty sure I know what x is. It came out to a nice round integer, so that's probably a good sign. Although they don't always come out to nice round integers. So x is -7. Well, I need to know what y is. Well, all I need to figure out what y is just use one of these two equations. Doesn't matter which one. Because I know that y equals 3x plus 13. Or y also equals -2 times x subtract 22. So let's just we'll take the top equation. I'm actually going to do both of them. And we'll say, all right, well, if y equals 3x plus 13, and I know x is -7, I'm going to now plug in -7 for x. So I just took this x right here, and I replaced it with -7 right there, because that's what I had solved out for x down below. And then I need to add the 13 because that's still part of the equation. All right, well, this is y equals -21 plus 13. Well, -21 plus 13 means y equals -8. All right, so I got y equals -8. So I believe y is -8, but what I'm going to do just to check, I'm going to also test it out using this second equation. I'll do that in a different color. I'll do that in green, because it should come out to be the same value. Again, so I also know that y equals -2 and then times x, which I think is -7 down below. And then, I'm sorry, yeah, and then negative, subtract 22. All right, well, negative times a negative is a positive, so y is going to equal positive 14, subtract 22, and if I finish that off, y equals -8. So yes, I got the same thing that I got right up here. So I can feel pretty confident that I did that right. So my final answer, once again, it's going to be in the form of the coordinate x is -7 and y is -8. So that's all of the work you need to show. Again, I'm grading your steps just like I always did in class when it comes to these types of problems. You can miss every problem in Pearson or on that worksheet. And although Pearson's a little harder to grade work because you can't show your work on the computer, unfortunately. But I do still look at your problems and see if I can kind of see what you were trying to do in Pearson. Certainly on your worksheets, though, I'll be grading the work. So make sure you show all the steps. Don't skip any steps. All right, so that's how you do the whole substitution worksheet. I'm not going to do the... Whoop. Do we have somebody else joining? I'm not going to do the graphing one, so we're going to go into assignment 6. Up, somebody, let me see if that's a message about the meeting real quick. Don't think so. Unless it's not coming into my email for some reason. All right, so assignment 6. You have a second attempt. Again, I think some of you might have already done this.
Do you want me to repeat something you said? Say Simon says and then immediately say what you want me to repeat.
That's Alexa in the background. I'm not sure why she just went off. So let me go to, I need to go to Pearson, I guess, for this. Should I do this in, yeah, I'm going to do this in Smart Notebook also, actually. Let's do this in Smart Notebook. Oh, that's not going to work. So let's go through and through and through. Come on, come on. No. All right, so where did I do linear system word problem? That's word problems. We don't want that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I already helped on assignment 6. So this is a video that's already out. Help on Pearson assignment 6 and on assignment 7. So you can use the video. This one's recording again, so it'll be pretty similar. Either one works. There's my dog. So 5, I'm not talking about that in this video. All right, so assignment 6. The main questions you need to know how to do, I mean, I graded all of them for this assignment, but I'm just going to do the main 2 you need to know how to do. If you want to know how to do those first 2, watch the other video that's on YouTube about assignment 6 and assignment 7. You need to know how to do this problem, though, right here. Oops. Oops. You need to know how to do this problem right here. And then the second part of that, which is coming up with the XY value. And then you also need to know how I don't know why this one is giving so many people problems, but this problem right here is also on the quiz. So I'm going to go over those 2 problems, and then I'll kind of open it up if you have questions. So when it comes to graphing, and you're not even drawing graphs, you're just trying to identify which graph goes with this system of equations. Why is that not working? Oh, I hit the off button. That is a system of equations, 2 equations that make up one solution set. All they are their lines. They're in y equals mx plus b format. So we have y, then we have -3 is the m value, which is the slope, and then +3 is the b value, which is the y-intercept. So again, that is the slope. The m, not the x, just the m. And then this is the y-intercept. E's are really hard to draw on this. So B is the y-intercept. So if you will remember, the y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. And I'm not going to go through every one of these because that would give the answer away. But I'm going to use this graph right here as an example. All I need to do is I need to check my y-intercept first for each line. And then I need to check my slope, my rise and my run, to see if the line matches up with the equation. So I'm going to do this in a couple different colors. We'll start with the green equation. All right, so for that equation, my y-intercept is +3. All right, well, I look at this graph. So I'm looking at this graph right now. So the green line has a y. This graph could be the right one. The next thing I need to check is, okay, well, with this line that I just put that little green dot on, that line has a negative slope. And I know that because it slants down from left to right. It's going down from left to right. Boy, this thing doesn't draw a very straight line. That's weird. So it's slanting down, so it has a negative slope. Get rid of that. All right, so now let me look back at the equation. In the equation, my m value is -3, which does have a negative value there. So far, this could be right. It goes through +3. It has a negative slope. So now I just have to see, well, what is my rise and my run? Does my rise and my run match this number, -3, which technically, remember, we have to change that to a fraction. So it should be -3/1. Well, let me see. If I have a rise of -3/1, that means this is my run, and this is my rise. So a run of +1, so this is positive, would mean I go over 1 to the right from this green dot right here. And then a -3 means I go down 2, or I'm sorry, down 3, not up, but down. Well, if that's where my next point is, then my line really would look something more like this. It would be way more straight up and down. So that is not the correct line. It's too flat. It's not the correct line to have a slope of -3. Now I could have also calculated out the slope if I really wanted to. Like I could have just looked at the black line. I could have said, okay, well, from here to this point right here, my run is +3 because I go 1, 2, 3 to the right and then down 1. So if I do rise over run, my run is +3 and my rise is -1. So it actually had a slope of -1/3 as opposed to -3. So they tried to confuse you a little bit on that one, trick you. All right, just to kind of go over the other line, even though we know right now, we already know this is not the right graph because the slope didn't match up. It should have been 1/3 and it's not, it's -3. Let's look at this blue line. This one immediately tells us that it's the wrong graph because if I look at the blue line, so now we're going to do this equation. The slope is, I'm sorry, the y-intercept is -4. This last part right here, -4. Well, if I go down from 0, so 0 is right in the middle, -1, -2, -3, -4 is down here. Well, that line is not exactly going through -4. It's close, but it's not going right through it. If I zoom in, you can see it a little bit easier. So I'll zoom in. So you can clearly see that line is not going through -4. It's up higher than -4. So I immediately know that graph can't be right because that second line should be going through -4, and it's not. So I could already now, again, say that that graph is not the right graph. If I wanted to figure out the slope, it'd be a little tougher on this line because it's not going through any corners, if you'll notice. It kind of goes through this corner right here, I guess, so we could use that corner and maybe say that it's a run of 1. So run would be 1 on the bottom, and the rise would be +2. So does that match up? That doesn't even match up either because it should have been 1/2 according to the equation. Should have been 1/2, and it's not. It was 2/1. So clearly this is not the right graph. That's how you go through and you match up the different components, though, to figure out which graph matches up. Now for your last part, the way you write the answer on part B, and again, remember, this is going to be on the quiz. There's only 2 different types of questions, and this is one of them. Get rid of all of this. So the way that you put your final answer in is once you figure out which graph is the correct graph, you need to say, okay, well, I need to come up with the solution. Whoops. The solution is where the lines cross. So it doesn't matter what the lines look like, wherever they cross is the solution. All right, well, let's go back up and see where they cross. If this were the correct graph, which is not, I'm not giving you answers, so that's why I'm still using this graph. If this were the correct graph, yes.
You could just answer it. I already did it.
Yeah, but not everybody has.
I did it.
Yeah, Nick didn't.
Nick's on? Is he
Yeah,
on your
he's on.
phone trying to pay attention?
I got him on.
All right. All right. Maybe 10th grade is a possibility after all. So in this problem, if B were the correct graph, which we know it's not, but if it was, your final solution would be that point where the lines cross. So you need to figure out what is the coordinate for that point. Well, you need the X value and the Y value. So all I do is I say, well, where does that blue dot right there match up with the X axis? Okay, well, it matches up right there. Well, that number is 3. So my X value is 3. All right, well, where does that blue dot match up with the Y axis? Well, it matches up right there. So that number is 2. So that's your final answer. That's what you would put in this thing down here if it were correct, which it's not. So I'm telling you this is wrong. You would put in 3 here and then 2 here. I got you guys putting in like trying to cram 2 numbers over here and then putting either 2 different numbers over here, or some of you are, this is the more common, you put an X and a Y over here and then a 3 and a 2 over there. It's just this one, because you can see there's kind of a comma right there in between. It's supposed to be. All right, so that's how you do that one. Again, that is on the quiz. 2 problems like that at least. This one, boy, how do I do this one without? I can't do that one for you. That would give you the answer to that one. Let's see. Let's go to. Do I have a problem where I can do that? All right, so here I'm going to just create a graph. This isn't going to be perfect, but it should be good enough. If not, you can watch the videos that I've done. They go over this in more detail. Actually, they might even give you the answer, I believe. I think about it. So I'm just creating my own graph. It's not going to be perfect, but it'll get the job done. So if we have a graph, numbers are 1, 2, 3 going to, so here, this center point right here, center point right there is 0, 0. Actually, yeah, so this is 0, 0 right here. This is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3, -1, -2, -3. This is the x-axis. This is the y-axis. So if I have two lines, we'll draw them in different colors again. They're not going to be straight. So there's a line, and we'll do this one in green, and there's a line. If I have two lines that cross, again, the answer is the point where they cross. So this is the solution, because every point on a line is a solution to that equation. So every point on the red line would be a solution to whatever the red equation was that went with it. Every point on the green line is a solution to whatever the green equation would be. Well, the point where they cross, right about there, I missed it. Oh man, so close. So close. Let's try it one more time. Oh, I missed it. This thing doesn't tap exactly. Anyway, right there. The point where they cross, obviously that point is on both lines. So therefore it is a solution to both equations, and it is the one and only point that is a solution to both equations. That's why it's the solution to our system of equations, because it's the only point on both lines. Anyway, so what I need to do now is I need to figure out, well, what is that point? Well, the problem is it doesn't exactly match up with any of these numbers, right? Like it doesn't match up right here with -1 or -2, and it doesn't match up with 0 or +1 on the y-axis. It's in between. So you have to estimate what that value is. So this is like number 4 on 2 of the different assignments, assignment 5 and assignment 6, just like number 4, only they have given you a better graph. So I would come in and I would say, well, where are these two lines crossing? Well, my x coordinate is on blue, yeah, is right about there. So what is that? It's not quite halfway. If this is -1, halfway would be a little more to the left, maybe over here. So I would say that's about -1.4, because this is -2 over here. This is -1, so it's a little closer to -1. So it's about -1.4. I don't know why I just did that, because I'm not done. So now let me see, well, what is the y value? Well, if the y value, there, that's pretty good. The y value is probably right about here. So where is that? That's just barely over 0, because 0 is right here, so it's above 0. Halfway would be right about here. So that's about, I would say, 0.2 for my y value. And you're doing it, they want you to do it to the tenths, which means one number after the decimal. So that's all you have to do on those problems, is you estimate. Now I'm going to give you a hint, since you guys are on the call. One of the numbers does actually come out even to a nice round integer. There's no decimal, and unless you want to put a decimal and then a 0 after it, you could do that. So one of the numbers is a decimal, one of the numbers is not. It's just an integer. And that's all you have to do. And there are going to be 2 questions like that on the quiz as well. And that's pretty much the whole quiz. Estimating the coordinate based on where the 2 lines cross. You're really estimating the solution is what you're estimating. And then identifying a graph, and then putting in the point where the 2 lines cross once you get the correct graph. That's the whole quiz. Nothing else. No word problems, no other multiple choice. It's pretty simple if you know how to do those 2 types of things. We will get into word problems next week, though, and creating equations. So you guys can ask any questions. I'll go back into the meeting in case you guys can't unmute your phones if you got a lot of background noise. You can type them in. If those of you that joined late, you can type in over here on the right. And I know some of you already did this, but most of you are not getting number 4 correct, the one that I just did about estimating. And since 2 questions, at least 2 questions are on the quiz with that in it, I wanted to make sure I went over it. So we have 4 people on. Yell at Justice to join. I cannot yell at Justice, unfortunately, or I would.
Mr.
I have the ability. Yes.
Could you do one of the substitution questions with the Y in it?
One of the substitute. What do you mean? I did
That's
2
like,
of them.
they have it says like Y, for 7, it says Y equals 3x plus 2. But for other ones, there's Y in it. Where it's like the number.
Oh, okay. Yep, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm just going to create one. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Nick, stop.
Same concept, but I will do one like that. Just actually, I'll just start a new page. I'm just going to make it up so the math might come out squirrely, but again, I'm judging your steps. So let's say we have y equals 2x plus 7. And then I think this is what you're talking about. And you have a second equation where you have 5x plus 4y equals 10. So y is in the middle of the equation, in one of the equations, as opposed to being all by itself, right? Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah.
All right, so same concept. We know y, based on the first equation, y is isolated, y is all by itself. So we know y is the same thing as that. Again, it's like I have $1 on the left and 4 quarters on the right. They're the same thing. So instead of this y down here, I could just say, well, you know what? I know that's equal to that thing right above it. So I could just replace it. So that's what I'm going to do. We'll change this. So 5x doesn't change. The number 4 doesn't change. Remember, numbers will never change. Now, though, I'm taking that y out and I'm replacing it with this right here because they're the same thing. And I just want to get it down to just one variable so that I can solve it. And then the 10 doesn't change on the end. So that's your first step, is to plug it in. Now from there, there's a little more math to it, but it's not hard math. So 5x, here's where you have to remember how to do the distributive property. I don't know why those lines come out so crooked, but so 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times 7 is 28. And then that still equals 10. Now you just solve it. So x terms combine to be 13x. Now I need to get x all by itself, so I need to get rid of the 28, which means I need to do the same thing over here. So scroll down. So that all goes away. So I have 13x equals negative 18. So, oh, I shouldn't have skipped that step. Divide by 13, divide by 13. And you need to show all of these steps, or you need to know how to show all of these steps. Well, actually, you need to show them all when you do assignment 4. When it comes to the quiz, you're not going to have to show any work, but you're going to have to understand how to do the problem, because you don't just give me an answer in the quiz. You have to actually understand the steps of the problem, which you'll see. So x, so that cancels out, that cancels out. X is, and all I'm going to do with this is just leave it as negative 18/13. Again, I am not done because we have 2 variables. We have an x and a y. So I'm going to come back up and I'm going to say, okay, well, I know this equation right here would probably make it the easiest to solve for y. So I'm going to say y equals 2 doesn't change, negative 18/13 is the same as x, so I'm just plugging that in for x, and then plus 7. So the math gets squirrely on this one. You won't have to worry about math, this stuff on the quizzes for sure. So that would be negative 36 over 13 plus 7, which would be, oh boy, 70, 91. So it'd be 91, subtract 36 would be 55, I think. Y equals 55/13. Again, you won't have to worry about doing that, but since I'm recording it, I figured I'd go through. All I had to do it, well, not all, but I had to convert the 7 into a fraction, and I had to have 13 as the denominator, and then I combined that with the negative 36 over 13, so that's how I got it if you're curious. So I don't even think that I make you solve all the way down to y. You do have to understand that you're plugging in the x value. So right here, I had to plug in the value of x in order to solve for y. So you do have to understand that on the quiz, but you don't have to actually solve it all the way out. So your math doesn't even really matter when it comes to y. You do have to know how to solve for x, though. All of that down here, you need to know how to do that for the quiz. Any other questions? It can just be general questions about grades, assignments. You have 3 makeups due this week on Friday at midnight. Then we will start a new section next week, which will be word problems and creating equations from word problems, something we did last quarter also. Although it'll be a system of equations, not just one equation, which is what we did last semester.
Mr. Gill, if we finish all 40 questions, is it still worth 20 points?
If you want to do them, I'm happy to give extra credit if you want to do that many, but you got to show all your work on it.
So if me and Nick do all 40, we could get extra credit.
I will absolutely give you some extra credit. I mean, you can't expect to pass the class.
Well, yeah.
Based on one assignment, but yeah, I'll definitely give some extra credit if you want to do all of them.
So what's on the quiz? This and graphing, or just
there is going to be, well, there's 2 different quizzes that I'm in the process of making. One of them is just the graphing. So like I said, basically question number 3 and 4, I think it was from assignment 6. And then it was like question 2 and 4 from assignment 5. Something like those, where you have to identify the graph, the correct graph, based on the 2 equations they give you. Then you have to write the solution, which is where the 2 lines cross. And then you have to be able to estimate a solution when the lines don't cross exactly, on the corner of squares, basically. Same thing we just did in this video. So that's one quiz. Second quiz is on doing what we just did here, but you don't. The way I'm doing it is the question, I'll just tell you what the question reads since you guys are taking your time to do this. It says, solve the system of equations using substitution. And then it says, then select the answer that is not one of the steps to solving the problem. Or what some of the questions say, select the step that is one of the steps to solving the problem. So it doesn't ask you to come up with a solution, so you can't just do photo math. You have to have all of the steps solved out so that you can look at them and see which one is or is not a step in the problem.
Okay, and how are we supposed to put it into Word if I take it on my phone?
You can download the app for Word. You can download the app for all of Microsoft Office. I can't really show you, especially if you have an iPhone. I definitely can't show you that. But if you just go out there, I know for Android it was free because I did it all to test it. I downloaded Microsoft Office. It has the Word application in it. So I opened up a Word document. And then in the Word document, you have the ability to attach a picture. It's got like, what the little image thing is that is attaching a picture. And, whenever you attach a file, I'm a fantastic drawer, so I'll draw it for you. But it looks something like this. There's a little icon that looks like this. It's not green. And it normally has like mountains or something like that on it. And that means image. and then it's got a little plus next to it. So you just click on that, and then it'll allow you to browse your phone and find the file, and you just keep doing that until you put all your pictures in the Word file. And then save it with the name of the assignment.
Okay.
It shouldn't be more than, I wouldn't think, 2 different pages. I don't know, it depends on how big you write, I guess. There's videos on how to do that though. Watch, again, I guess it doesn't show you how to do it on a phone. I can't really, I don't know if there's a way for me to even show you that. I guess I could try to video my phone, but I'm not sure how clear that would come out, especially if you're watching it on a phone. Just play around with it, and if you have trouble, shoot me a message tomorrow. Any other questions about assignments in general? Pearson, other assignments, grades, quizzes coming up, team, any questions on teams? You guys keep up with it. I'm telling you right now, for those of you on here, if you keep turning things in on time, especially if you can attend these sessions every once in a while, I'll try to do maybe, since we did have a couple more people join, maybe I'll do evening sessions again. Your grade will be way better this quarter than probably ever would have been any other quarter of your life in this class. It's just there's not a whole lot I can really do to assess you. And I'm going to take into account just the fact that you've been turning things in on time and that you've been attending live sessions. So stuff that wouldn't normally go toward your grades will go toward your grades this quarter. There's not as much that we can really do to grade you on. So we've got to kind of use everything. So just keep up with everything. If you have questions, shoot me a message on Focus. Anybody else? All right, going once, going twice. All right, you guys have a good rest of the week. Get that stuff done and stay safe.